Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this official press conference with Luis Enrique, the Spain national team coach, ahead of tomorrow's match against Croatia. Please ask for your turn to ask a question using the application. Let's begin with the first question. Thank you. Let's try with another question. Go ahead. Good afternoon. I wanted to ask if you were impressed enough with the team against Slovakia to play the same team. And do you think it's fair for Llorente to have dropped out of the team after the way he started the championship? Good afternoon. I love the team and I love the squad to the extent that any of the players in the squad could play. All of them give me assurances for a round of 16 match. Next question, please. Good afternoon. I wanted to ask you about Pedri. He's played every minute so far. He's a young guy, and as you said, he has some very good stats. How does he look in terms of his physical conditioning, and what do you make of him so far? Sometimes the facts speak for themselves and can sum up the reality of a situation much better than words can. Pedri is a unique player for us, completely different to everything else we have. He's as fresh off the pitch as he is on the pitch. Even though he might look like a shy player, but he's really not like that. He is really fresh. He's been playing ping pong as well, and he's very good at that too. I wanted to pick up on that question about the midfield. Do you agree that the match will be decided in midfield tomorrow? Well, I think that's obviously something that people talk about a lot in football. But of course, for a team like us, a team like Spain, who likes to build from the back and play with a possession game, obviously we wouldn't have a chance without a midfield. Most of our problems come from issues that we're not able to solve in midfield. So I'm completely in agreement with what you have just said. I think it's also important for Croatia because they also have their best players in midfield, so I'm sure it'll be a great battle in the midfield tomorrow. What do you think that changed in the Slovakia game apart from the goals? And how's the mood been around the squad in recent days? I'm afraid I didn't catch the start of that question. Could you repeat it? Do you think the team is more confident now after the win over Slovakia? And how has the team been since that victory? Nothing has changed at all. It's the same attitude. We created 10 clear chances against Sweden, Same thing against Poland, and then the same thing again against Slovakia. Nothing really changed. Of course, before the goal against Slovakia, we'd missed a penalty. We'd had another good chance to score as well. But obviously it was a convincing result, and that gives you a boost in terms of energy and confidence, and that was very useful for the team. Good afternoon, coach. Good luck tomorrow. What are you expecting from the match? Are you expecting them to defend, or are you expecting them to come out and press you a bit higher? What are you expecting from the opposition tomorrow? Secondly, will you be making any tweaks to the starting 11 ahead of the game? In terms of your first question, it's the question we're always asking ourselves ahead of every match. Many times we don't get it right because teams mix it up against us. I think Croatia obviously are a better standard of team. They know what they want to do on the pitch. Therefore, I think they will play with a setup in midfield, but I think obviously it will depend on the scoreline. That will depend on whether Croatia sit back or press us high up the field. I think that these games can lead to really defensive setups that can be really contradictory. I'm expecting them to set up the way they usually do. We know them well as a team because we played against them a year ago, 18 months ago in the Nations League. And they have the majority of the same players and the same coach. So I think both teams know each other well. And in terms of any changes to the starting 11, it's a bit similar to the answer I gave earlier. Any of the players can start tomorrow. And that is a completely honest answer from myself. Good afternoon, good luck for tomorrow. I wanted to ask you about the situation with regard to Morata. I don't know whether you saw his interview the other day, but he spoke about his suffering over the past few days and the abuse that his family and kids have had. What do you make of that? And how do you ensure that the player is focused 100% on the match? I really don't follow sports media during these tournaments. I think that it's a police matter, really, because when it comes to death threats, particularly with regard to family and kids, that's a serious offence. So I really don't think I can add anything meaningful to that in a pre-match press conference. I think it's a matter for the authorities so that it can be met with a robust response. Good afternoon, coach. Spain haven't played a quarter-final since 2012. They got knocked out of the group stage in Brazil, for example. This is obviously a team that is developing, and we're up against a good side in Croatia. Do you think it will teach you a lot about where you are as a team? Could well be one of those situations. But it was the same for the Slovakia game, because that wasn't just the third game of the group, it was a final. We really had to win. And same thing tomorrow, because only one of the teams can progress. Of course, I'd love for what I have in my head to come true. but I have no doubt about what I'm going to see from my team, what kind of performance we're going to give. Of course, we're going to try and ensure that we neutralise our opposition. That's what gives me a great deal of confidence. It's about what we can control and what we do every game, regardless of whether we are pleased with the result or not. Good afternoon. It's 4 weeks since the start of the preparation for the European Championships. Do you think the team has a better chance of winning the Euros now? Are you more confident in them after the group stage? I have the same level of confidence as I did at the start of the tournament. I think there have been no surprises. All of the teams that had been doing well before have done well. In terms of ourselves, I think that obviously we expected to win the group, and I think we would have deserved that. But in football, it's not about what you deserve, but about what you achieve. That's why we came second. We have very high motivation, just as we did at the start of the championship. Good afternoon, Coach. How much of a factor is it that you're not playing in Seville tomorrow? And do you think that you could draw some benefits from the fact that you don't have the pressure of being the home side? To be honest with you, we would have preferred to play every game in Seville, surrounded by our fans, particularly after giving them something to shout about in the last game. Would have preferred to play every game in Seville so that we could spend the whole month in Madrid. But professional sports people adapt to situations. I think it's something that you really have to have in your locker, particularly in the current climate. But we are here with a great deal of excitement. We want to produce a good performance, give the fans something to shout about, and try to get through to the quarterfinals. Before the Poland game, you spoke about Lewandowski. You said that he's a player that perhaps doesn't really touch the ball much, and the same could be said about Modric. How important is it to make sure that he doesn't get the ball too much? Of course, we want Croatia to have the ball as little as possible, particularly with regards to those that have the highest level of quality. Modric has a great deal of quality. He can get up forward and pop up on the edge of the box to score goals. So of course, the more we can have the ball, the more we can try and stop the opposition having the ball, the more we neutralise their potential. But of course, Modric is one of their best players. Looking back to the last few years, everything that's happened since you took on the job, it's the moment of truth now, a really special moment. How would you define this moment? How would you sum up your feelings ahead of the match tomorrow? Confidence. Good afternoon. Obviously, there can only be one winner, but we are in the knockout stages. What would you be happy with at the end of the European Championships? How far would you need to go to be happy? We will give ourselves a rating at the end of the tournament. We'll see what we can achieve. We're completely focused on getting through a very tough round of 16 clash, so it would be ridiculous to think about anything further ahead of that. All of the players, all of the squads, all of the delegation want to win players, so let's focus on win games, so let's focus on what we can control.